right. So tonight we are super excited to welcome Christopher Wyze of Christopher Wyze and the Tellers to our show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you, sisters. This looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I see the smiles on your faces.
Absolutely.
Already. That's right. We're going to just get started right off talking about music. So.
Yes. So the first thing I want to pick your brain about is the live in Clarksdale at Clarksdale project. It seems really awesome. And I want to know how that all got put together.
Well, I'm going to go back in time a little bit because we released our debut album in July of 2024. And we'll get into that in a minute, but it went really well. And, you know, you never know how these things are going to go. And it really was at a point where it's like, I want to keep the momentum going. So the idea of me and Ralph Carter, my producer, is, hey, let's take the songs we did there on our live album, which are our original songs, and let's do a show. And we put the band together as a studio project. So we had never played a show. I met these guys, you know, day one in the studio. So we wanted to also show that we could perform. I've been a singer and performer for, you know, a number of years. And so I can do that. But if people were going to book us, they're like, well, we've never seen you. So that was a little bit of it as well. So to keep the momentum going and to sort of show that, hey, these guys can get up on stage and make music. And I guess the other thing was to make it in Clarksdale, because that's really, for me, kind of home base for my music and my point of view on the music, and really how I became a songwriter and a recording person and all of that. It all happened in Clarksdale, so it had to be in Clarksdale, which I'm sure you may know, but you know, the blues aren't sort of on the top of the everybody's mind today. They were bigger. They're big in Europe, very big now, but Clarksdale is really sort of where the blues was discovered in the early part of the 1900s by W.C. Handy, who lived in Clarksdale, and there's so much history there of the blues. But that's why we did it in Clarksdale. We did it there at the Shack Up Inn and the Juke Joint Chapel, which is an old cottage inn. And it just kind of drips with, oh, wow, this is the blues. So, I mean, what better place could we do it? I had Coop Cooper. He's a Clarksdale, Mississippi filmmaker, film the show. And so I hope it's dripping with Mississippi Delta goodness and blues and all that kind of stuff. So that's how we did that, and that's why.
That is,
I love that.
I do too.
Really cool story of how it kind of came from, you know, your original music and then a live version, because we don't get a ton of that live stuff, you know, so it's kind of neat to hear that both, you know, you can compare them. So I love that.
And it comes with bonus content. Yes. Tell us about this.
Well, the bonus content, we were talking a little before the show, and my background's advertising and writing. I've written 5 books, so I write a lot of stuff. And so bonus content is really what I'm all about. No, that's not what I'm all about. But, you know, if I'm going to do this thing, I just can't just like make a disc and say, well, there you go, print the names of the songs on it. Give me a break. So there's quite a bit there. You know, we put a lyric booklet in. We talk about, you know, where did the show get filmed and recorded? Who are the players? What are the lyrics to the songs and those things? But bigger than that, the bonus content is the show. We filmed the show. So we've got the whole show, which is 10 songs. And then when I got home, of course, after I got home, I thought, oh, I should have. And here's what I thought I should have. I thought I should have made a documentary film about Clarksdale, Mississippi, and the blues and all the places that really I know and have been to for many years and mean a lot to me. And so I called Coop Cooper after I got home. I said, Coop, you're going to hate this, but how are you the day after Christmas? And so it was 3 days after Christmas. So we got home, we mixed the album, we mastered the album. And then I'm like, I want to put more content on the video piece of the project. And so I said, Coop, I don't have a script. You know Clarksdale, I know Clarksdale. I'm going to show up in the afternoon on a Friday, and then I'm getting out of there on Sunday morning, and bring your camera, follow me around, and let's go see the things that you and I know and love in Clarksdale. Jerry Murphy from the band was my wingman, and he was great and kept us on track. And we sort of ad-libbed it, but we showed a lot of things that, you know, if you can't get to Clarksdale, hopefully we gave you a look. And the other thing is, so many, we have a lot of listeners in Europe, and many of them come to America to listen to the blues, and they go to Clarksdale. So if you two, and if we all three went to Clarksdale today, my guess is half the people there would be from outside the US, just walking down the
Wow.
street or in a juke joint or in a restaurant. There's such an appreciation for Clarksdale outside the US. And I wanted everybody who could possibly see it to learn about it. So that's a little bit of the bonus content too.
Well,
That's really
Clarksdale
neat.
just moved up on my list of places to visit.
Me
That I
too.
and I mean, it would be nice, I think, too, for people to have the video and then go visit and see the places on the
Yeah,
video.
it's like a
So,
whole
I
package.
love your
That's really
thinking.
cool.
You know, it would be handy to have several because you never know when you're going to misplace one. So,
that's
Yes,
true.
that's 100%. That's like you are just thinking.
That's
uh,
right. So tell us how you got started with this music
yeah.
career.
Well, I was an advertising person. I did that forever and ever. But in high school, I sang, and even before that, I sang. You know, I was on stages and musicals and singing in choirs. And we had a super music department in my high school. And I mean, we would like sing the Messiah with an orchestra, eight
Wow.
parts, the whole deal. I mean, it was, and one of the things in high school, I was a freshman and I was a first tenor. I was a sophomore and I was a second tenor. I was a junior and I was a baritone,
Wow.
and I was a senior and I was a bass. So it was kind of fun to cruise through the treble clef and into the bass clef. And it kind of soaked into me. I wasn't serious about, I'm not a guy who can read music and play it, but I can follow it along and, sing with it a little bit. But it was good experience there. So I had that behind me, but, became a business guy. I actually owned a business and, worked hard at that, kind of forgot about music. And then one day one evening I was at a wine dinner. It was a church event and it was a wine dinner. There's a guy up there playing music on stage. He's playing the guitar, it's acoustic, and it was really good. And he takes a break, and I go up and say, "Hey, this is great." And I introduce myself, and he's like, "Are you a musician?" And I said, "Yes." I don't know why I said yes, but I don't know. Something hit me. Maybe I was supposed to say yes, but I said, "Yeah, I sing." And I really hadn't done much singing for a long time. But he said, "Well, what do you sing?" And we talked, and because I knew some of the songs he played. And he's like, "Well, do you know this and this?" Yeah, I know that one, this one. He goes, "Well, let me finish this glass of wine here and let's go up on stage and do it." He goes, "You want to do that?" I said, "Oh, be great. I'll do it." And so
That's some
these
guts.
so the end of the evening, people kind of hung around. We kept going and going, and people were like, "This is pretty good." And at the end of the evening, I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll see you later." He's like, "Oh, get back here. Who are you?" And he said, "We need a front man in our band." And really he said, "Come over to my house next week." And so I joined their band as the front man. And then it really sort of became my band with my name on it and so forth. Because these guys are, look, we don't want to be the front man. And they were great players. They were, guitar, drums, and bass. And we played a lot of blues and a lot of rock and roll, but really primarily based in the blues. So this is 20 years ago. Okay. And then I kind of felt guilty. We'd play and just play around this area, of Indiana and central Indiana and things like that. And I felt like I needed to contribute more. And I thought, well, I'm going to learn the harmonica. It's great to add to a blues band. And so I did. I picked up the harmonica, and then I learned about a harmonica camp in Clarksdale, Mississippi. That's a week you go to learn and study. You can pick up your harmonica on the way, and by the time you get home, you can play a little bit. Or there are people like me who maybe were in a band and want to pick up a different instrument or something. So it was all mix of people, but the instructors were not a mix of people. These are all, really top-notch musicians, professional musicians that put on this camp. John Gindick, RJ Michaud, who's a well-known harmonica player, songwriter, recorder of music for decades and decades. He became a mentor and a teacher of mine. And Ralph Carter. And Ralph's important because Ralph was one of the instructors. He played in the band. So they'd have a jam band. So you'd learn some technique during the day, and then we'd jam all night, and you hop up with the band and stuff like that. So it was fun. And I was one of the few singers. So it was a lot of fun to kind of sing and play with the band and goof around. And Ralph and I got to be good friends. And Ralph was kind of early in his career, he was kind of rock and roll royalty. He was with Eddie Money, the old rocker Eddie
Oh,
Money,
wow.
and
Yeah.
was in his band for about 6 years and wrote songs with Eddie, and then was his tour musical director. So he had been in that kind of world, and I get to know this guy, and at one point he says to me, he goes, you can do this. You've got something here, and you should start writing songs. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean? And, yeah, okay. I'd go home, and then next year I'd come back to the camp, and he's like, hey man, we're going to do a record someday. I'm like, oh, Ralph, I'd love to be on your record. He goes, no, it's going to be your record. You're going to write these songs. And it kind of went on like this for a few years. And I never really wrote any songs until one day I was reading the Wall Street Journal, which all good bluesmen read. But there was a story in there. I was an advertising guy. I was a business guy. I'm reading the Wall Street Journal. And there's a story in there in the travel section about this new recording studio in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. And it's got pictures of it and stuff. And this guy who grew up there had come back home and bought an old mansion and made it into a studio where musicians, the artists, come and stay. You live there. He cooks for you. He's a cook. It's a kind of a chefy guy and a great musician as well. And so I pull out my iPhone, snap a picture of it, and I texted to Ralph in California. I'm in Indianapolis. I said, hey, Ralph, here's where we're going to do our album. I'm just kind of sort of kidding. I mean, I'm really kidding. And he comes back and says, okay, when are we doing it? And, that was about 5 years ago. And, he wasn't kidding. And so we talked, and he's like, well, and then I'm like, okay, you're going to be in Mississippi when? I said, so that's about so many months from now. And I'm like, I tell you what, I'll write a bunch of lyrics. And when you wrap up your next camp in Mississippi, stick around for a few days, and you and I will make these into songs. And that's what we did. And being a writer, I wrote for a newspaper, I wrote for a magazine, I wrote advertising, I've written books. So I came to this with an advantage of having been a writer, and putting words together. And the other thing is, I'm not a novelist. I'm not a fine artist writer. I'm a commercial writer. So somebody says, I need this tomorrow. I need this today, or whatever it is. And if you're going to be in this business, it's like, that's the rule. So you learn how to have an assignment and complete the assignment. So I don't know why, I just felt like, yeah, Ralph, I'll bring about, 15 songs with me, just lyrics. And he's a music guy. And I get the music too, but I thought, the best thing I can do is probably write the lyrics. And I know Ralph, he plays pretty much every instrument, and he has his own studio in California. And so I knew he knew that piece. And he's like, you bring him, and we'll sit at the picnic table. I'll bring a guitar, and we'll make them into songs. So, that was my assignment, and I did it. And we showed up, and we made them into songs, and we pulled out the iPhone, and we recorded the demos. And then from there, I think we had already set the recording date in Muscle Shoals before we met, because it was just like, I had no doubt that Ralph Carter could see this through. It wasn't me, but I knew he's been through this. He'd made plenty of albums. He'd been on stages and stadiums. He's been a tour musical director. He's got his own studio. He knows how to do this. And so I just
perfect guy to work with.
He's a great guy to work with. And so we had that in place. And then, we got these demos. He then auditioned musicians in Muscle Shoals and said, hey, I've got a drummer, or I've got a guitar player. The guitar player actually met us down in Muscle Shoals. I met him when we were kind of doing our let's make him into songs. He came by, and we spent some time. Great guy, plays with the Black Keys, played with Robert Finley, and played with Tony Joe White, and just great musician. And so he was there, and then we brought in a drummer locally from Muscle Shoals and a keyboard player, and then my bass player, Jerry Murphy, who'd played with me for 15 years in the bands I'd been in. He's kind of a wingman and mentor, and it was kind of like, if I'm getting a little nervous, I look over at Murph over there, and I see that he's more nervous than me, and then I laugh.
What a fantastic story.
Right?
I mean,
I
just
love that.
to go from, the progression of, I kind of played at this church thing too. Yeah, we have a couple of them. It's just, it's so cool.
It gives us hope. It does. We're more on the side too.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it was that hard. I was used to writing things that were kind of, the deadlines were sort of crushing, and the subject matter was complicated. And this was a chance to kind of write fiction that I could kind of make it up. I didn't have, a client or a boss saying, here's all the rules.
It has to be this.
Yeah. So it was a little easier. And let's face it, a song's got a few hundred words in it, right? Maybe. And a book has 40 or 50,000. So,
right.
What I found is when I started to write songs, and I haven't written that many, I've written very few, in fact, but is that if I had a story idea, okay, there's this guy, he's a trucker, he's never got roots, he's always on the road, but he's a strong guy of faith, and he knows that when it's all done, he's going to end up home, that kind of thing. Okay, there's a story.
Yeah.
And so I could take those and try to tell them in a story. And I kind of get that, okay, you got to have the same number of lines, you got to rhyme, all this kind of stuff. There's chorus, because I'd been in a band for 15 years before I started doing this. So I also, I kind of feel like it just all happened at the right time when I had some of the things required to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't like I was new to any of it. I'm not new to being on stage and singing and being around blues music and rock and roll. I'm not new to writing words. I'm not new to getting things done and producing a usable product, despite all odds. So I kind of get those things. And so I think that was good boot camp for me. And it took 30 plus years of boot camp of doing that. So, and the other thing is, all of this was fun. I mean,
yeah,
I don't even sweat this. People say, "Are you nervous? You go to the studio, you got like, no. Why would I? It's fun.
It's great. It's
the best part. Yeah, it's the best outlook to have. It's not work feeling.
Yeah, fun. We went to the studio, and I didn't know what we were going to do with this. Nor did Ralph. We were just like, you and I like these songs we put together. Let's record them. That was it. And mission accomplished. And then it's like, when I get them done, I'm like, well, I think they're pretty good. Let's go get a record album or a record label. And so
I'm curious, how many of the songs that you wrote together made it to the album?
Well, he and I wrote 8. I'm looking at the set list here on the back of the CD cover. He and I wrote 8 of them. I think there were probably 4 or 5 that we took into the studio, and we didn't like them. And, we just like, that's not working, kind of a thing. And then I do know that one day Ralph came down. It was the last day we were in the studio, and he looked like he'd seen a ghost. So he sleeps, and there's a bedroom there and over there. We all come down, have breakfast, and he's looking really like nervous. And I'm like, "What's up, Ralph?" He goes, "Well, this one song is just not working. We can't do this song." I'm like, well, "Okay. I mean, it's okay, buddy. I mean, I'm okay. I still like you." I mean, he was so worried that I was going to blow up. And he goes, "And I hate to do this, but I've got a song I've written that I've never recorded. It's yours if you want to. I can teach the guys the song." And I said, "Sure, play it for me." And he plays it. I'm like, you know what? I forgot. I did write a song about 10 years ago, and this is true. I wrote this song called Money Spent Blues. It's an advertising song. And I didn't even pull it out, and I'm not even sure I remembered I had written it when I started writing songs with Ralph. And then it just kind of clicked. It was kind of like, well, that kind of sounds, I bet I could put those words to that. So I'm going, I think I got it on my computer. I hadn't looked at it in 10 years. I'd forgotten about it. And I pulled it out. He's like, "Well, this is great. This will work." So that one kind of creeped onto the stage there, an hour before we recorded it.
Wow.
And Ralph whipped up the musical stuff around it. And, the studio guys are amazing. Hey guys, it's like, he can speak their language, and 1, 4, 5, and we're doing this at the turnaround. I want you to do that. Get rid of that snare drum. Hey, Michael, give me another different strit snare. I'm looking for more of this kind of sound. And so there you go. There were a couple of them then that we recorded that didn't make it on the album, and still never probably will. And the reason for that is the album wasn't 100% a blues album when we went to record it, because we didn't know where it was going. Later, when I started looking for a label, and I joined the Nashville Songwriters Association, I went to some events there, and it was more of a country thing. And I noticed that, I mean, it's just reality that the country music world's not looking for a guy like me who's in, the end of his real career and he's trying to get started. So that doesn't work. It works in the blues. So many of these songs had a blues bass. Several of them didn't. So we took them off. And then it was like, hey, Ralph, we gotta come up with a couple of more songs that are more blues oriented. So in the interim, I actually went to Ralph Carter's songwriting camp, which he does songwriting camp.
Nice.
Yeah,
Love
and
that.
I met Carrie Hudson there, who's a great performer. I don't know if you know Carrie. He was with a band called Blue Mountain. He still performs today. Great songwriter. Lives in Sumrall, Mississippi. But there was one song called "Stuck in the Mud." And that's the name of our album. And Ralph and I couldn't make it work in the studio. And I said, Carrie, what would you do with this song? And we sat. It might have been even the same picnic table bench that I'd sat with Ralph. And now I got my new friend Carrie. And he and I make that into a song. And then Soul on the Road, which I wrote during that week of that songwriters. I was sitting on the porch of my shack at the Shack Up Inn. You stay in these old sharecropper shacks. And there was a guy way at the end of the courtyard there. It's just a grass field in another shack. And he was packing up and leaving. He was actually getting on a motorcycle. But in my mind, I started thinking, who is this guy? Where's he going? What's he all about? What's his world? And I sat there on the front porch and wrote Soul on the Road about a trucker. I made him into a trucker. And then later that day, I showed it to Carrie, and he and I made it into a song. And then we actually came back a few weeks later and recorded 3 songs in Clarksdale, Mississippi, to fill out the Stuck in the Mud record, including one I wrote the morning of our recording session. We had only planned to do 2.
My gosh.
And I thought I got all these people there. I got the engineer, I got all the musicians, I got all this stuff. The night before, I said, Ralph, how about we do another song? What if we did a cover? He goes, you don't want to do a cover. He goes, what about this song that he'd heard me and Murph play? I said, well, those aren't my lyrics. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I thought you wrote that. No, I didn't write the lyrics, but me and Murph made up the tune. He goes, well, why don't you just write some new lyrics? And this was like 10:30 at night, and we'd had a couple of beers. And
why don't we?
And I was like, okay. So,
oh my gosh.
I remember sitting in bed there in my shack, and I had nothing. I was like, I'm tired. I don't have it. I got nothing. But I remember telling myself, when I wake up, I'm going to have this song. I will have this song. It will be done. I will wake up and write it down. And I did. I woke up and I wrote the song Hard Work Don't Pay in about an hour. And I finished it up. And about that time, it's like, oh, I got to go over to the Shack Up Inn and over to the Juke Joint Chapel to record it. And it's one of those take this job and shove it songs.
Love it.
It's a good blues song, about a guy who's like, he's had it up to here with work, and it's hard work don't pay. I'll tell you what, this ain't worth it. So it was that kind of song, which, you get a little story like that, and I had the music behind it. I knew that song, backwards and forwards, the musical part. So it just kind of flowed.
Very organic how all of it came together. And it's such a neat story. And I love the idea of going to a camp. We've been talking about going to a
writing retreat
or going to a guitar camp, because we're learning guitar right now, and it's tough.
It's tough. Yeah. But it's fun.
Ralph Carter does guitar camps. I mean,
right.
Hey, I'm writing it down.
And songwriting camp. Yes. I was like, that sounds amazing.
It's called Down to the Crossroads. Seriously, everybody ought to know about it, because getting to work. There's TJ Clay there, a great Nashville studio musician who can show you the guitar. There's Hash Brown, Brian Callway, who's a recording artist from Texas, who comes up. And then there's people from all over the country who come, and really all over the world. And if you've got a little bit in you, they'll take you to the next level. If you got a lot in you, they'll take you to the next level. And it's an unbelievable experience. And that's why it's so important to me to talk about Clarksdale and to do films about Clarksdale and to write songs about Clarksdale.
Yeah.
For me, it got me out of the world of that I was in, and it kind of got me back to, I think, maybe who I really am, if you want to get real corny about it.
No, I think that's really
fantastic,
true and cool.
So what are you working on now? What's next?
Well, I just last week, Ralph and I had a Zoom call, and I said, Ralph, it's time to do this again. And he and I kind of hinted at it through text and things. And so we got our calendars out. I said, where are you, when, and when are you going to be in Mississippi, and da 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 da. So we've put some dates on the calendar, and I haven't written a song yet, but I'm not concerned. I need to give myself 8 or 10 weeks to write a batch of songs or something. So I'm new to this. Because of my background, I'm writing ideas down all the time, all the time. I might, in a day, maybe you do this, I might have 3 or 4 song titles, and if the song title is enough for me to know the story, that's all I'll write down and put it in my iPhone. If it isn't, I'll say, this is a story about a guy who does this and this happens, and that's might be all I write down. Sometimes I'll have a chorus, sometimes I'll have a line that I like, and so I probably got 120 of those laying around. So my process will be just to go back to that resource of just these fragments and pick out, I don't know, first draft picks kind of thing. And then I think we'll maybe do it a little bit differently. I might say, Ralph, all right, here's my draft picks. They're not done. Can you work with these? We didn't do that the last time. I just showed up and said, here's my songs. Yeah. Although I got to tell you one more story about writing a song. And I was on my way to meet Ralph to have our 3 days of working on these songs. He was flying from Ventura, California, and into Memphis, which is an hour and a half from Clarksdale. I said, Ralph, I'll drive down and pick you up at the airport. It's 7 hours from Indianapolis to Memphis. So we agreed I'd pick him up at the airport, and then we'd go down to the Shack Up Inn and hang out there for a few days. On the way, I remember looking down at my GPS on my Ford Explorer over there, and I'm like, where am I? I go through 6 states to get to.
Oh my gosh.
By the way. This is crazy. It's really not that far. So it's a lot of, where in the heck am I? And I looked down and it said 3 hours from Memphis. And I'm like, 3 hours from Memphis. Oh my goodness. That's a song. That's a song. And I had this idea of this song, the whole song, the entire song pop into my head. There's a guy, he's on the road, he's on his way to Memphis, he's going to meet a music guy, he's going to be a recording artist, he thinks he's going to be a big deal. He's been banging around for 15 years, and this is his big chance, and now he's not turning back. And that was okay. So I got this idea, and this like hit me like a flash. And I had a little notepad in the car there, and I was like too scared to pull off the road. I said, I'm going to forget this. I'm going to forget this. I just know I am. I'm going to look up and go, 3 miles to the exit. And I was like, what was that song about? I didn't want to do that.
Yep.
So I wrote the lyrics to 3 hours from Memphis on the armrest there on this little notepad. And so when I met Ralph, I said, hey man, I got this other song too. So that was actually the first song we worked on. Was 3 hours from Memphis, and it was like 1 day old. It had a 1 day birthday. And so it was, and here's the funny thing. I don't know if it's a funny thing. It's the thing that keeps me going in this, is that who was the song about? It's about this guy who's on his way to Memphis to meet a music guy. And then my record label is in Memphis. At the time, I didn't even know if we were going to make a record. I had been working on this for 15 years. I didn't consciously think, well, that's me. I'm writing about me in the song. Yeah. So this song got done, and a year or so after it was done, I'm like, hey, that's your story. That's about you. And it's like that, you're songwriters, and your mind works on things when you're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's why I knew when I went to bed, I was like, I know the music of this. That music, I can just play it in my head while I'm asleep, and I will have an idea for this song. I just know I will. And I've seen that. So that song got conjured up, and it became my life story. We signed with big radio records in Memphis. Johnny Phillips, who's the nephew of Sam Phillips from Sun Studios. Wow. And Sam actually started this company that Big Radio Records is a part of in 1960. So they've been around a long time. And it's just been a crazy adventure filled with just really wonderful people and things like this. I mean, getting to do this is such a delight to spend time with you and to see what you do and what's your part of the music world and so forth. So I told you, I just do this for fun, and it is fun.
And that's, you
and
know,
we love it.
we're
Gosh,
the same.
yes.
We are do it all for fun.
Yeah.
We've been writing lyrics for a while. We're learning the music part of it. You know, we've been to a couple of big festivals and gotten the opportunity to talk to some amazing people such as yourself. And it's just been we really started this out to learn from everybody that's out there doing it. And it just has become amazing.
Just,
the amount of people and the skill and the talent that we've gotten to talk to.
All of the stories.
Oh,
like
the
hearing
stories.
your stories tonight just makes me so excited.
I know. It's so exciting.
We are going to ask you our 4 big questions that we ask everyone.
Okay.
Your first one is, what was your first gig that you ever did, which you kind of alluded to? And then best gig that you've had so far, or your favorite gig so far?
Okay, so probably the first gig, I won't do like high school stuff. I'll say when I was with a band, it was at a place called the White River Yacht Club. And if you're in Indianapolis, there's really not much water. So it's a bit of a joke. There's a little bit of the White River, which is a little narrower here than this office I'm in. And somebody built like a patio right by it. It's called the White River Yacht Club. So I was the front man of, this band that had been practicing in Rick's basement. And off we went. I think, so I remember, I won't forget that one. And, people were, they didn't throw us out. So we kept going.
Always a good thing.
Yeah. My favorite gig, I would say I'm gonna be a little coy, but I'll give you an answer. But I think my favorite gig is yet to come because I really haven't performed with this band. Now we did the show.
True.
We did the show live in Clarksdale, but there was a lot of lights, camera, people running around, recording it. It was a small crowd. One of the cameras didn't work. It was a little bit messy. So it didn't feel like great. Everybody comes in and wow, look at the way you got that on film and you got it on, it was live, it was real, but it was a little hectic. I wouldn't say stressful because I don't stress, but it was pretty hectic. So I want to do my own songs. I had a great show we did here on the downtown Indianapolis. There's an old canal, the Central Canal, and it's part of the Indiana History Center, and they got a big patio. We probably had 1,000 people there. So we played stuff like that. That's a lot of fun. And I want to do more of that. And I want to play in Europe where people love the blues. And I don't know, that's in my head, and we'll see if we can get it done.
You'll get it done. I know you will.
I know it. Yeah, for
you
sure.
made this album, and I think it's gonna just happen. Okay, who are your influences, would you say?
Well, influences probably for music, right? Because I love Mickey Mantle as a baseball player. No, that's Ralph Carter's a big influence. I already told you who he is, but let's go, some names that you might know. I would say like Tony Joe White. I love his stuff. He wrote Polk Salad Annie. He wrote Rainy Night in Georgia. I mean, he's unbelievable. Kerry Hudson, the guy who I've written songs with, his songs are so amazing, and he's such a great guitar player. I encourage everyone to listen to Kerry Hudson and the music that he makes. It's so good. I love J.J. Cale, Oklahoma guy, who he's a blues guy. He's an Americana guy. I don't know what he is. I just can't listen to J.J. Cale enough. Leon Russell was always a guy who I just can't get enough. Leon Russell, great songwriter, but he could also be a crazy rock and roller. He could write quiet songs, country songs. He played with everybody. And the Beatles. I mean, I know a lot of Beatles stuff. I mean, I know it backwards and forwards because my sisters are a few years older than me. I kind of caught the tail end of the Beatles. I've been around a while, and but they were a little older and had the Beatles going all the time. And so, I saw them when they turned from the mop tops to these psychedelic hippies. And then it was, I want to be a hippie. And so the problem was by the time I got to be old enough, the darn hippie era was over. So I was really not happy. Made me an unhappy child.
Okay, are you listening to anything on repeat currently? And if so, what is it?
Oh, wow.
We try and make these hard. No.
You know, sometimes I will listen to just a song over
Mhm.
and over and over
Mhm.
and over. Probably the last one that I got into this was Bobby Blue Bland, who was a blues singer. And you know, BB King, you know, guitar player, singer, but Bobby was a singer, and that's what he did. And um, he he recorded "Going Down Slow," which is an old blues standard, and there's a recording, an arrangement of it that just really just knocks me out. And I listen to it over and over and over. It's a great song about it. The story, he didn't write it. I don't know who wrote Going Down Slow, but it's a story about a guy who didn't live his life the right way, and he's going down slow, and he tells his mother, you know, don't send a doctor. It ain't gonna do me no good. And you know, when you see that train come home, get out my good clothes because I'm going home. You know, you're gonna put me in a box. And you know, it's like, whoa, what a great song. So
Wow.
I don't know if that qualifies for an
Oh
okay
yeah.
answer.
That
Yeah.
counts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. What advice would you give to new musicians and or songwriters?
Well, I'm a new songwriter. That's the first
Mhm.
thing. And so maybe the advice would be, why not? Why not? Why can't you do this? I'm looking
I
at
love
you
it.
two. It's like, well, you can do this. I know you
We
can.
can totally do it.
It starts with just doing what you have to do. You can't just want to do it. You also have to do some stuff. You know, you have to do some stuff.
Yes, you
Feeling us out, Chris.
um, you know, and I imagine myself here. If I hadn't been a writer, I couldn't have been a songwriter at this point in my life. It couldn't have happened because I'd have had to learn. What's that?
Oh, I was saying she's a writer.
I
She
said,
got
so
her
are you.
MFA in poetry, and I got the theater end, and
Yeah.
so, but we write. I mean, we still write together, but
So you bring that to this, which you have to have.
Yeah.
So I don't really play an instrument. I play the harmonica. I mean, it's an instrument. Yes, it is, and I love it. But it, you know, you can't like I can't even sing and play it at the same time. If you know what I'm saying.
Don't think that's possible.
So I would just say, you know, you got to pay your dues somewhere in here, and maybe you learn it all at the same time. You know, you're trying to learn how to play music and write music and perform music. I can't imagine that. But people do that, and they learn how to do that. I had several of the big building blocks in place, and then Clarksdale kind of marinated me in the genre that then became a bit of an obsession. And you know, I've tried to become a good student of it and learn about the blues and listen to all sorts of it and learn the stories and see where they came from, and these people. And I recorded 2 covers on my live album. So I didn't say this that. And I decided that the night before the show, I was like, or excuse me, 2 nights before the show, I was like, we really were only going to do 8 songs. It was just practically that's the way we had to do it. We didn't have this big show where we played 20 songs and we're going to pick out 10 and put them on the record. So, and then I said, why don't we do a couple of covers from Leroy Carr and Scrapper Blackwell, because they're from Indianapolis. I'm from Indianapolis. Leroy Carr and Scrapper spent their lives here. They both died here. They're both buried here, and they wrote one and recorded one of the first million selling songs in America called "How Long Blues." It was recorded in a hotel room here in Indianapolis on portable equipment in 1925. And so I had to do How Long Blues as a tribute to Leroy Carr and Scrapper Blackwell. And then I did Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out, which was written by Jimmy Cox, but later recorded by Scrapper Blackwell and Tedeschi Trucks and BB King, and just on and on it goes. So they're just old blues standards. So I don't know where that came from, but I think learning about the music that you're trying to make is good for you too.
Absolutely.
this is time now for your shameless plug. Tell us where we can find your music, all of your social media, all that website, anything you have, Patreon.
I'm an advertising guy at heart. So, I don't know how to do this. No, you should go to my website, because that's the place where you can get to everything. Okay. It's ChristopherWyze.com. It's WYZE, ChristopherWyze.com. And then you can go there. You can go to a link tree that'll take you to Spotify or Deezer or Tidal or iTunes or Amazon Music, wherever you get your music. That's a great thing about having a record label. They've got it everywhere in the world. And you can also buy a CD. And we made CDs and we haven't made vinyl, but I wanted to have the packaging. I wanted to have liner notes. I wanted to have a 20-page booklet in there that told the story of how we did this. And I wanted to have photographs of the sessions. It's all in there in both of the CDs. So go to ChristopherWyze.com. Of course, we're on Facebook. We're there all the time. And in Instagram, I do a lot of Facebook stuff. The website, because I'm a writer and an advertising guy, like I've had people say, how could a band like you have all of that content? It's like, well, that's what I do. And so, if you have an interest in it, I mean, it's got 50 stories. It's got 50 reviews of our albums from places all over the world. I mean, it's got a lot of stuff. So if you want to geek out on our stuff, it's there. Or if you just want to see what I hope is an okay little website to look at about a little band up here, that's okay too. ChristopherWyze.com. Thank you.
So fabulous.
Very cool.
Oh my gosh, so much fun.
Yes, this has been amazing to hear all of your stories. Thank you for sharing the
details of the songs
and the albums.
The stuff I love.
Me too. We love to hear the background. So it has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, sir, for being on the show with us.
And I want to see your music, and I go to those guitar camps and songwriting camps, and then I'll interview you about your stuff. How's that?
I love it. Okay.